What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Ironheart Recap with the man, the myth, the legend from Phase Hero, Brandon Davis, and me, Neesin, from here, THS, guys. We are here. This is our first time actually sitting down, getting to chop it up about Ironheart that just came to its finale with 6 episodes. Man, we're done with Phase 5. Phase 5, we could fold it. We could tuck it in our backpack, walk to the river, and maybe just toss it over the bridge. But whether you like it or not, we are done and moving on to Phase 6, and really, it heats up with Fantastic Four in a couple weeks. But we have Ironheart, something that's been talked about for the last 3 years. We finally got to see it. So right off the top, first I want to ask, BD, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Ironheart's here. It's weird to believe that Phase 5 is done. That's insane to me. It didn't land the way I wanted it to. In some ways, it did. But overall, I don't know. Phases just kind of feel irrelevant at this point. But I feel like we could talk about that too. But I feel like phases used to be these things that you used to get excited for. There'd be a story within it. And then all of a sudden, a big event would happen to be like a punctuation point. But now they just kind of come and go, and you don't even really know what's what anymore.
To that point, yes, it wasn't if you had to name, or I guess put an overall umbrella over Phase 5 and just actually give it a label, you really can't label it anything other phases, right? Like you had everything from Loki, you had everything from Quantum Mania, like the whole. I guess it was supposed to be technically a Kane type saga in a sense, but it really just fell into, Captain America, Red Hawk, and Iron Man, and Thunderbolts, and like all these things that really didn't really correlate with each other.
Yeah, I feel like the theme is disconnection, and maybe that's kind of the point. Maybe everybody has to get reconnected to get us through beyond this. But there's just so much. There's so much that has happened in Phase 5, including the ending of Ironheart, that I'm just like, when are we going to see it again? When are we going to see it matter and pay off? And I hope they do. But there's things in the Infinity Saga that never paid off, and that's okay. But I don't know. There's a lot of good stuff in Phase 5 though too. Like I started off kind of cynical. We had some bangers in Phase 5.
Well, we had the Loki series in Phase 5.
Ooh,
right?
Did we?
That was great. We had Agatha all along in Phase 5.
That's right.
We had. I felt like really. Deadpool Wolverine. As far as movies, we had Deadpool Wolverine. I thought Captain America was a lot better than what I was reading online. Yeah, Thunderbolts was a banger. Any other movies that came out during Phase 5?
There's a lot of movies. Were they good though? I mean, Quantum Mania came out in Phase 4.
That's right. Oh no, yeah, that was Phase 4. Yeah,
Phase 5. Secret Invasion came out in Phase 5. Oof.
We don't talk about that. We don't.
Yeah,
that is It was 12 projects in Phase 5, and that is number 12. If we were to sit and rank throws, I will let you know that. But you said something, and to get into the Ironheart conversation, you said it's interesting to see where it's going to be left off at from in. You know, are they gonna pick it up? Where's this next? Where's Riri gonna pick up from the end of Phase 5? Oh, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 wasn't Phase 5.
Spoilery?
No, for not yet. We are gonna spoil, but not yet. First, I want to ask, with that ending, what was your rating of the show and overall thoughts of the show as a totality without spoiling it?
I wanted to like the show more than I ended up liking it. I love this character from comics, and she's not tremendously different in comics, but there's enough differences that I just didn't end up connecting with the show. I've been excited for the show for a long time. I think if this show came out a few years ago when it was originally supposed to, it probably would have landed better with me too. I don't know, but I think my just fatigue with disconnection might have got to me. But the first 2 episodes, I didn't buy the story at all, really. I just felt like this was kind of like Crime City cosplayers. I didn't buy these characters doing the things they were doing. I just, for some reason, I didn't look at this group of people and say, yeah, I buy you wanting to commit crimes and rob people and stuff. And then episode 3, kind of the tease at the end of episode 3 with Anthony Ramos in the hood is what kind of got me to be like, oh, you know what? I think there's something here that I'm going to enjoy. And then by 4, 5, and 6, once we explored the trauma of what happened with Riri's stepdad, that was pretty much straight out of the comics. I mean, they changed the location, but like other than that, it's the same story. And I thought that's a great story from comics. It's really tragic. It's a thing a lot of people go through, especially, I think it might be a stereotype of Chicago, but like there's gun violence in Chicago, and people lose loved ones to it. And that was a powerful story element. And once they explored that, I thought it was really, really well executed on the show. And then I thought the finale was fantastic. Like, I thought this finale was great. I wish the finale had been like episode 2, and then we could see where this is going to go, because I don't think we're going to get a season 2 of Ironheart. But I do think hopefully I have an idea of where this will go. Thanks to Aaron from Phase Hero. I got to give credit because it wasn't my idea, but Aaron put an idea out there on our podcast over there that I'll kind of regurgitate here in the best I can once we get into spoilery stuff. What about you? How did you feel when you started watching it?
So, like you, I thought, that for this show taking so long to come out, I really didn't have really high expectations for it. I felt disconnected, to be honest. I thought right after Wakanda Forever, I wanted to see what else this character Riri Williams was doing, or how was she going to act when she got back to MIT. I, like you, read the comic book, and I was interested to see if they were going to even. So this is not spoiling, but in a comic, one thing they didn't do was have Tony Stark as a guiding figure, AI figure, like they had in the comic. So I was like, okay, well, she's never had that Tony Stark figure or just mentor. That was Shuri, but now Shuri's gone. So what is this going to be like? So I was very interested to see her find her way as this, genius, but not as privileged engineer in Chicago. And what does Chicago look like? And I thought it didn't disappoint to me on the first 3 as far as the Chicago side. My family's from Chicago, been to Chicago and Gary area. So just seeing how the MCU, a place where the MCU has never been, the way these people are talking, the way that they're dressing, just the community of things. That, to me, those first 3 episodes had me enough invested, saying like, okay, this feels different than any other MCU show. That even the writing and the little sayings of houseway and just like these little nuanced things that I'm just like, okay, this doesn't feel like an MCU show. It feels like I'm watching a little bit grittier CW show, to be honest. Like that's what I started feeling like in 1 and 2, and then
I'm gonna be honest with you. I felt the CW comparison too, but in like the bad stereotype of CW that a lot of people make. I felt like those first couple felt cheap. And I'll be real. I actually asked myself, like, am I just like a white dude who's not connecting with this because this isn't a culture that I have experience living in? And maybe maybe to some extent that might be true, but I still I bought into the show once there was like the storyline really got me invested emotionally. But I do recognize not everything is going to be made, particularly for me. And I fully respect that. That's why I think the show is so overhated. Like I do recognize there's a lot of good stuff in this show, and it is so overhated, and just for obvious reasons, like like expected reasons from the internet. Yes. but it's really not. It's not a bad. I didn't like the first 2 episodes. I'll be so honest about it. Yeah. I just couldn't find. But then once it got going, I was like, you know what? Actually, there's something here. I'm digging this.
As a writer, I think the first 2 episodes was very interesting because I was like, they haven't learned stakes yet. And so my biggest gripe with, and talking to, he's in the chat actually, Pingo, shout out Pingo, my wrestling co-host, I always talk about stakes and talk about how these Disney Plus episodes just haven't learned how to have stakes after each episode, unlike Last of Us, right? Like Last of Us, you feel at the end of each episode, something dire is going to happen or something that's going to draw you back to the next episode to find out and want to keep going. These characters could die, or these characters could lose, or whatever the case may be. I felt those first 2 episodes didn't have that. I thought we were going to fall into the same thing, but I think you said it where it's like you felt like the last episode should have been a second episode. And because the last episode had so much stakes at the end that it would have had a deeper, like Last of Us, that would have been a second episode, right? Like if it was a Last of Us series, the last episode would have been a second. Do you think we should have had more time with these characters? Would have made you feel for them? Because even in the beginning, no, you don't.
No, I agree with Kevin Erdman in the comments right now, who said wasn't hooked until the back half of episode 3. I'm right there with you. That last 20 minutes of episode 3. Also, shout out to the runtimes of these episodes. They were all about 50 minutes long. I appreciate that these were almost full hour episodes. But it wasn't that I didn't get, it was, I spent 2 hours with these characters and I didn't really care. Now, again, I seem to be just an outlier in that feeling, because a lot of people love these characters right out of the gate. I love the character of Riri. I was so excited to see her. I hate the VFX of Ironheart in Wakanda Forever. I think the suit design and the VFX of it were bad. The VFX here were a massive step up. Amazing. The suit looked great in it, and a lot of it was practical too. A lot of it was like, and I love that they did that. It was just cool. It felt like what I loved about Iron Man. I love the sciencey stuff. I love the grounded stuff. Seeing the suit like be put onto her instead of that nanotech bullshit was great. But more time, I don't think, unless it did something differently and like introduce subplots to then get us invested in the characters, because that was my problem. Is I didn't find myself really too hooked on it. And then eventually Riri and her mom started to grow on me. Riri and like the dynamic, the Zeke Stain stuff started to grow on me and bring the best out of Riri, I thought. Yes. And maybe more time in that back half could have done it, but I didn't need more time like what we had in the first half.
So I would tell you, I didn't feel for John, and let's just actually make this a blanket. Now we're going to get into a little more details. We're going to get into a little more what happened, guys. If you haven't watched it, just stop here and go watch it, and come back. But this is your spoiler warning. All right. So, when John dies, right? My thing is, I was like, oh, he's dead. Like, I didn't really get time to like sit with this character to even know his full makeup. I got hints of it, right? And then we got more in the back half, like everyone's saying. But at the top, I'm like, man, I really wish I would have got more of the playing two sides guy, or more of the enforcer guy, or just more of the, oh, did you kill Rampage? Like, did you kill him, or did John tell? I mean, or did Parker tell you to kill him, or did you kill him on your own? Like, what are your real motive? Are you looking out for Parker? Do you know what he did? Like, I didn't have that feeling at the top. And then so when he died, I was like, man, I wish I would have sat with this character. Man, I wish I would have had a little more time with these characters before we get to the fight at White Castle, where I'm like, damn, Riri, like, yeah, you gotta fight back, but they're only doing this because of like, I didn't have any of that. I just had, all right, like, this is an action scene. And kudos to Riri Williams not being a trained martial artist and really just naturally fighting back, right? It was like the choreography wasn't as clean. So I love that. I love that about the show and just that particular part.
Absolutely.
So as we get to the end, because I really want to talk about this Mephisto of it all. And for Mephisto to finally be named in an MCU where people from WandaVision, it being teased, and him being in other iterations of, Ghost Riders before, right? Yeah. But with MCU, I mean, with Mephisto finally being here, do you feel, in which you kind of said it, but I really want you to elaborate on, why do you feel it should have been in the second episode and let that be the story being played?
Well, I felt like the introduction of Mephisto, and maybe I'm a little too close to this because I read all the reports, I pay attention to the rumors and everything. And I kind of felt like I knew Mephisto was rumored for this show. So that mystery with the hood, I kind of felt like I knew where it was going. And so it felt like I was waiting for this to happen, and it finally happened. And I was like, oh, I saw this coming, but it paid off so well despite that. And I don't think we're going to get a season 2 of Ironheart, because not just because of Ironheart, just because of how these Disney Plus shows go. We don't really get season 2s of these things. We get 6 episodes and then maybe a movie that kind of acknowledges it. If you look at Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, it doesn't really do a lot to acknowledge and honor the legacy of WandaVision and everything that show set up. It just kind of uses the jingle at one point and then does the kids thing a little bit, but not in the way, those of us who watched it wanted it to. So I feel like, there's a way it could happen. And shout out to Aaron Perrine for this theory. Doctor Strange 3 ends up being Strange Academy, and characters like Riri and Zalma Stanton and some other characters are sort of training with magic, and Riri ends up maybe like a Wanda Maximoff type thing, where the Darkhold, where Mephisto now is starting to get the better of her. She is the new Hood, but she's smarter and more equipped to do these things than the Hood, which makes her a huge threat. But yeah, I would have loved to see that happen. Like, Riri made this deal. And also I saw people debating whether or not this was in character for Riri. Fully in character, if you ask me. This is the same character who was just willing to commit a bunch of crimes to get the job done. She made a deal with the devil. Like, what? How do those two not really align? And she also didn't have all the information. So if she knew everything that Mephisto was, like the consequences of it, she might not have done it. But given how she's jumped into this, crime ring to get the job done, I was like, that doesn't seem out of character for this version of Riri.
I don't know, man. Okay, so a couple of theories I seen the theory, and the first thing I said was, she never shook his hand. She never shook his hand.
Yeah, but we saw
but did we see, but was that a flash, like some sort of like flash or premonition of it, or was that actually happening? So at first I was like, damn, Riri, you haven't learned your lesson yet, because the whole time, and I forget the character's name, the young girl, the magic that was learning baby magic from TikTok, she kept saying there's always an exchange. It's always an exchange, no matter what. With magic, there's always an exchange, right? And so the first, I'm like, damn, Riri, you didn't learn your lesson, you didn't listen. But at the same time, I felt that either one, her hair was different. Like, she never shook his hand. She was still standing there. You could tell she was like contemplating and reading it through. And just before that, she learned her lesson with using her suit in the magic, in a sense of when Parker went to go shoot her, and she was able to use the holographic and like grow another level. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, this character is having an arc and she's growing. Did she learn her lesson? Usually on the hero's journey, the hero learns the lesson and they're able to really become the hero that we once saw them to be in the beginning. If this is not the case, and we don't have a season 2, I will be at Kevin Feige's office on Monday morning.
Season 2. Let's be real about it.
I mean, we're not, but see, my thing is with the movie, because I like the idea of a Doctor Strange Academy if it's a series and that's already in development and that's already going to come out sometime next year. I love that idea, right? But if it's a movie, my issue with that is going to be, we just seen Doctor Strange. One, he kind of set up an academy. He reopened Comertage in the last Doctor Strange. He had American Chavez. She didn't. Where has she been for the last 4 or 5 years or whatever? Like, I don't want to see a bunch of kids in a guy. Like, he's already done that. He's done that with 2 movies. He's done it with No Way Home, and he's done it with Doctor Strange too. So for it to be a movie, I think that's a discredit to Ironheart, and I think that's a discredit to Doctor Strange.
I mean,
I
I would watch
do.
a Strange Academy show, but then you got to get Benedict
Yes,
Cumberbatch to at least appear on Disney
absolutely,
Plus. Will he
absolutely.
do that? Who knows? I mean, the MCU has pulled off some crazy
Or-
contracts and got actors to do things that you'd think would be challenging, but I don't know where it fits because you got Doomsday and Secret Wars. We got so much coming, and you look at the schedule and how Doomsday feels like the start of a reset. Like, hey,
Yeah.
we know Kang wasn't working. We know this wasn't working. You know, we're bringing Downey back to hit the reset button and break glass in case of emergency type thing. So I just don't know where it fits. I mean, that to me sounds like the most interesting thing. Do a Strange Academy. That seems like a perfect fit for Disney Plus too, because you can angle it like towards young adults. You can do a horror element. You can bring in some major players from the MCU and make an event out of it. But will they? Who knows?
Well, I will say that in the comic, a part of Strange Academy, or a part of the doctor, same thing that the mother of the daughter that was in, she was at. It's a character by the name of Dr. Voodoo, and in a comic,
Yep.
in Storm's comic right now, he is the one that gives Storm's powers back after she loses it. And as an X-Men, the X-Men is resetting. So I say that to say, I think there's something there with a story of, does this side of magic play into the mutant saga coming up with, with Secret Wars and Doomsday? Because I would hope so. Now that Riri's in this side of tech and magic, and this is what it's going to be, I don't want to see her 5 years from now still like Dominique Thorne is going to, like, she Human's age, and she's playing a 19-20-year-old. She can't play this forever, and so I don't want to see her 7 years later trying to play this 6 months after what just happened. I do think there's something there, and it's something that they're really going to have to dive with, even if, and it's a Midnight Sun series or Midnight Suns movie, which if we're just pitching and we're just saying, my full theory, and it's always stood, is that Doctor Strange 3 is going to be a Midnight Suns movie that allows them to play with introducing Blade properly, and allows them to do Moon Knight. And so with that, you can have Riri play into something like that, because she's dabbling in her dark arts, right? So,
Matt, like, honestly, if you want to put Blade in a title, just call it Blade in the Midnight Suns. Like, just,
well, I mean, I think it's going to be Doctor Strange in the Midnight Suns. If I'm just,
I think Blade sells more tickets.
See,
personally,
I think Blade would sell more tickets if it was Blade after being announced after Daredevil, right? I think the energy around that, but which they need to reset Blade.
Mm-hmm.
So Blade needs to be the Mahershala Ali, and it cannot be, let's introduce him in his own, let's introduce him the proper way, right? But let's not put it all on him. Like, give him have it to be a Blade Doctor Strange movie. And Doctor Strange has it.
There's a lot of interesting things that a lot of them stem from Ironheart, this Mephisto thing, and the idea of seeing Riri again, this dark magic and all that stuff. Blade, Doctor Strange, Midnight Suns. We're still waiting for Jake Lockley to come back in. There's so many open threads, and I just feel like they've all been sidelined for Doomsday and Secret Wars. And obviously there's a couple movies in between that we don't know what they are yet. But I just don't know where you fit any of this stuff in, because Spider-Man 4 probably not going to touch on any of this. New York City should be its own pocket in the MCU, and they're finally doing that. Daredevil, Punisher, Spider-Man, Fisk, like they're kind of going to be their own thing. And I really think that's awesome. New York City stories. But magic stories are going to be separate. They're going to be across the entire, MCU, every corner of it. God, where does that fit in this schedule? I don't know. I want it to, though.
So I would ask, and just throwing this out there, we do have one magic / tech show coming up, and that's I would say WandaVision, but that's Vision Quest.
Yeah.
Right. And which they did play with Stain making the bio skin, right? Like he basically turned himself into a walking AI, human AI mix. So if we have this already and he's going off to find his way, which I'm assuming that means he's going to go to the West Coast at some point.
Yeah.
And this is where Vision Quest is going to be, possibly, potentially. Is that how we continue this story going, where the series are dealing with magic and tech, and the overall arcing movies are dealing with just the big bads, the world is going to end, or in Spider-Man's case, his world is going to end?
Man, it's hard to say. I've had this conversation as well before, where it's just like, all right, how now that Marvel Studios movies are taking priority and TV seems to be hitting, slow down, but it's still going.
Yeah.
How are they going to split them up? Because they also have been open that we're not going to see the big name Avengers. There's been reports. I wouldn't say Kevin Feige or Brad Winderbaum said this. I don't think they have. I don't think this comes from Disney. I think this comes from reports with sources or whatever. But that you're not going to see the main Avengers show up on Disney Plus anymore. They're not going to have their own shows, which to me is kind of stupid.
That's
maybe if you're doing Ironheart, or maybe not Ironheart, but since we're talking about Ironheart, but anything. I mean, you do a Nova series, you could have Star-Lord show up, and I think you'd be wise. And I'm not saying it needs to be in 6 episodes. Put them in 1 episode. This is the MCU. Show it's connected. You do Strange Academy, you need Doctor Strange. But I could see some of the like the Miss Marvels, the Ironhearts, the Wiccan, like some of the young Avengers, basically, type of characters that could fit that. Kate Bishop being Disney Plus characters where kids will watch, but also the adult stuff with the Defenders. And then, you have your A-list Avengers being the movies, and the Fantastic Four and the X-Men being the movies.
It's no way, and I mean no way, they can keep Haley Steinfeld as just a Disney Plus character. Like it's no way. It is, and that's I think you can, you got Miss Marvel and Ironheart, and they could possibly, even though I feel like both of those should stay and they should be able to play both, right? Like you should have Miss Marvel in a movie, maybe not our own movie, but in a movie. Then that story continues like a comic book, like they're in a team up, whatever. And then as you get a comic book, they have their own stories running. I think it should play into something.
I just don't know. I don't think a Young Avengers movie puts up the numbers to justify the expense of a Young Avengers movie. And I think that's where they're going now. Like,
you don't think Haley Steinfeld, you don't think they will bet it all on Haley like they did on Florence with Thunderbolts? Because that's the
Thunderbolts wasn't a huge financial success.
It wasn't, but it
was a great movie, and that's a brand builder in my opinion. But I don't think you can put the word Avengers is too valuable, I think, to then make a Young Avengers and have it not do well. Like a Young Avengers movie, I think if your Young Avengers cast, as fired up as I'd be to see something like this, if your Young Avengers cast is Wiccan and Kate Bishop and even Yelena, throw Yelena in, Miss Marvel, Ironheart, who else we got out there? Scar, if you want to have a Hulk in there.
Yeah, and then Franklin Richards.
Franklin Richards could be in there. That movie probably doesn't make $600 million.
But that movie makes $350, $400 million.
But it's expensive, and it's called Avengers.
But I think you go call it Champions then. I think that's why you play with the Champions.
I think you call it Champions and you make it a Disney Plus show.
I'm sorry. I'm for. If it's a Disney Plus show, I'm for it, but it better be more than 6 episodes. I think.
Now that said, I would rather a movie. I'm just putting my mind in the people. I'm trying to think the way that the people who greenlight these things think these days, and that clearly Disney has shifted into less.
Right.
If it's there, I think they're going to bet on some surefire hits. I think we're going to see some sequels. And then we'll get one new character in the movie, basically, like every year or two, we'll get a new character movie introduction. And then we'll get a sequel or 2 each year, if that. But yeah, man, Champions would be such. Better not do Champions before you introduce Nova.
Yeah, that's the thing. I look, they have these characters that they're sitting on, and I think they're missing I wouldn't say they're missing a boat because they know what they're doing. I'm a $1 billion company, but at the same time, there's so much space with Disney Plus that can be played with if done right. And I think we've seen other silos do it. Rather it was with Netflix, rather it was with CW, right? Like rather people whatever.
They
not
did the
they built,
Arrowverse, remarkable.
yeah. They built a world. They built the world that they could introduce any single character, where they had Legends of Tomorrow as its own show for multiple years, right?
Yep.
Like, so I think doing something like that, Disney Plus now out in their own company, outside of Marvel, they've done it with Andor, multiple episodes, multiple seasons, and it was stuck between what we already knew was like we knew the end, but we were still interested.
Yep.
Right. In which, they spent a lot of money because these are they weren't, this wasn't in the volume. Like these were extravagant sets.
Yeah.
Right. Like in over the course of years. So I think there is a way, and whatever it is, they should look at Marvel and look at something like the Champions, like you're talking about, which I think if they consider Thunderbolts a brand success, maybe not, and a brand success enough to where they bet the new Avengers behind it, like where they attach the Avengers name behind it. Like, I think they can look at something like Champions, and if it makes that $300 million, $400 million range, and you spend $150 million on it, I think that's a success for them.
Yeah.
And but I think these series has to lead to that. And I'm hoping once we get the Vision Quest, all these things align in some way with your She-Hulks, even and like just all your Disney Plus characters. This is the culmination of it, because they're not going to be in Doomsday, and that's going to suck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of names not on chairs.
Yeah. Right. Like we got a lot of chairs. We got
a lot of chairs, still a lot of names that weren't on chairs yet.
That wasn't on chairs, and we have a lot of time, and I think that they just now are getting the interest back with fans. Like, no matter, like, they're now starting to get a little more trust again. Like, okay, like Thunderbolts, it took them longer. Or I would say Captain America came out on TV. They're like, oh, all right. Like, I would. Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, I also just think like the Infinity Saga was able to connect these things and pay them off because there was enough time between projects. There was a movie, and then there was at minimum a few months until the next movie, if not a year. And we got to a point where we're releasing a movie the same day as an episode of a Disney Plus show is releasing. And then as soon as that Disney Plus show ends, another Disney Plus show starts. And then right after that ends, a couple weeks later, we've got another movie, which in theory, in 2017, we'd all have been like, oh my God, yes, give us all of that, in the MCU.
Yes.
But I think what happened was the ability to connect these things and release something and see what people liked and responded to and hear what they didn't like and didn't want more of was lost because the next project was already made. You couldn't adjust it. You couldn't then take what worked about Shang-Chi in 2021 and inject it or plan around it for 2022 and 2023 because those projects were pretty much already done when that movie hit in September 2021. So I think now that the MCU is a massive, massive ship, and they finally started to pivot it, because I do think what James Gunn said recently in an interview and what Brad Winderbaum has been kind of candid about is that there was an output mandate, and it had the ship going in one direction, and it was too much, and it did at times lessen the quality and make things feel disconnected. And it is such a big ship that they're trying to turn it, and they are turning it. And we're seeing that with Daredevil. People are loving people who are actually giving Ironheart a decent chance. A lot of them are really loving it. Yes. Deadpool and Wolverine imagine if Deadpool and Wolverine was the first movie of the multiverse saga, or if Loki and WandaVision were first and then Deadpool and Wolverine followed it and Spider-Man No Way Home was the next movie. Like there have been a lot of really good titles in this. There's just been a lot of disconnection. So I think as things slow down, they correct the path of the ship, they're going to be able to say, all right, this is what worked. This is what people liked about Ironheart. This is what people liked about Deadpool and Wolverine. This is what people liked about Loki. Here's the things we know they didn't like about these other projects and those projects. Let's not do those. Let's do what worked and go in that direction. And that gets me excited for like once Doomsday and Secret Wars come, I think, they're going to be able to start getting back to what worked in the past, and the connectivity and the excitement and the quality will be more consistent again.
See, I love that idea of getting back to 1 or 2 movies a year. Like, even though I didn't complain, we were getting 3 movies that time 1 year for it. Like, I loved it.
I love it, but I want
but you're to your point of just them taking time. I think that's why the Disney Plus show should be a a heavy focus on character building and not a focus on, oh, let's just give them 4 episodes, 6 episodes, get some watch time in and that's it. Like, it should be a heavy focus on a character or story arc, character arc that does or doesn't may not play directly into what's going on in the main movie verse of everything, but you're building a character that when they do pop up in a movie verse, people understand who this character is already, because one, they didn't have to hurry up and watch them. They have a year, and people talking online and sharing tweets, sharing texts. I literally just talked to somebody that still hasn't seen Wakanda for the assembled Wakanda Forever, right? And they were like, they saw a clip of Ryan Coogler talking. I'm like, this came out 3 years ago. Like, they're like, yeah, I go on every now and then. I'm like, huh, okay,
we live in a bubble, my friend. We live in an echo chamber, and we lose sight of that sometimes, and I'm so guilty of it. But this moment last week put some perspective on it, on some things for me. At the Superman screening, I recorded a video with James Gunn about John Cena and Dave Bautista and working with OVW wrestlers turned actors. And I sent it to OVW, which broadcast the next day. And it worked on the show. And I looked at the YouTube show during that segment, and there were about 400. OVW averaged about 400 live viewers. And while we've been live, I actually had a match air on OVW. Oh, but I saw the comments, and they were saying, "There's a new Superman coming out." Like they're like, we live in that feels so outrageous. And I remember during the Super Bowl, I went to find the Jurassic World trailer to tweet it from that hashtag show account. And I typed in on Twitter, search Jurassic World, and I figured it would just come up. And what I saw was hundreds of tweets of people watching the Super Bowl, learning for the first time that a new Jurassic World movie was coming out this summer. This is because we live and eat, we eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff. It feels so second nature to us to know any of this, let alone a Superman movie. But a lot of people they're not tuned in. And that's something I think the studios have to account for when telling these stories too and making these decisions.
And so to that point, and before we wrap up, because we'll wrap up too, to that point, Ironheart did not, and they do not do this with Disney Plus shows for whatever reason, the marketing behind it. Like
Ironheart felt like it got sacrificed.
Yeah, but I would say name a Disney Plus show that didn't feel like it got sacrificed. Like, I felt like it got sacrificed for sure, but I would also say I can't name a show that we didn't know besides maybe Loki season 2 that we didn't know that it was really, really coming very soon. They put everything behind it. Like, they put the machine behind it. And I think things like Thunderbolts, when you can see the budget for the film matched the budget for marketing. And they went hard to let everyone know that if people even didn't know about Thunderbolts, they was like, oh yeah, it looks like they got a new movie coming out. Like, they knew it was a new movie coming out. Yep. Right. And I felt like they don't do that with Ironheart or with these Disney Plus shows, and it's irritating.
Yeah, I think that the focus shifted back to box office, and I think that from a business perspective, that makes sense. Jim says, "Guys, we are in a bubble within a bubble." It's true, especially those of us, who are going to Comic-Con in a couple of weeks and are going to be hanging out all together and stuff. We even breathe this stuff. If we don't know it, we're not doing our job. And everybody in the comment section who's watching live, whether here on that hashtag show, on Face Hero, whatever it is, in this entertainment media space, those of us who follow us, they follow us because they are interested. But that's still Twitter is such a microcosm, and I have to remind myself of that just to filter out the negativity. But also, it is a microcosm of people who have similar interests, because we all find each other, and these algorithms drive us to each other, and it seems like the whole world has the same interests as us. But really, if you had I call it the Uber driver test, because it's the easiest way to have a random person show up at your door. If you call an Uber and you start talking about this stuff with whoever shows up at your door, do you think? I thought most people would know there's a Superman movie coming out. But, most people aren't going to know the inside details about Ironheart and the shift to attention on box office. And there was no way Ironheart was going to get a ton of marketing when Fantastic Four is the most important project of the year for Marvel Studios. And it's coming out in just a couple weeks. If you want it, that's what makes me think Ironheart was like sacrificed, because it should have been released 2 months after Fantastic Four if you wanted to be able to market it. I like 100%. You made the right call. If you have to pick one to market, you got to market your most important movie of the year if you're Marvel. Yep. But then why release Ironheart in this time where it's going to be looked over and probably forgotten pretty quickly by people who don't even know to watch it.
And I honestly think Ironheart only got the energy it got because Sinners was such a hit. And it was right after
Cooper's name.
It was such a hit, and it was undeniable that oh great, like let's this is already kind of riding right in. Like let's just do that. Like let's have this conversation. So last thing we didn't talk about is before we get out of here is just what's your thoughts on, I mean, we kind of just talked every day, but what's your thoughts on Fantastic Four, and how is that going to excite you enough to wait a year and a half for
I can't imagine anything that movie does to make me go, all right, a year and a half. I'm already sold on Doomsday because they're bringing Downey back, and I'm a huge Iron Man and Downey guy, and that cast is just incredible. Fantastic Four, I don't think is going to do, like, it could, marginally make me more excited, but what I need Fantastic Four to do is sell me on that cast more than anything. The world looks phenomenal. The story here looks pretty good. The one thing Superman trailers did was made me believe that David Corenswet and Rachel Brosnahan had endless chemistry as Clark and Lois. Immediately, I bought them. I don't feel the same way about Pedro and Vanessa as Reed and Sue from the trailers. In real life, they look like the best of friends who get along no matter what. I haven't bought the family yet. I think in context, there's a good – Sarah Finn has not missed with casting in the MCU. So we'll see. That's the biggest thing I need is to sell me on the casting choices, and I think it will. The trailers haven't fully done it yet, but I think that's what I need from that movie.
I will say, besides the last trailer that just came out, if you go back and look at every scene that Pedro Pascal is in, he's not happy. And so there's no smiling. There's devastation left and right on his face. And so therefore, I feel that has to do, because I thought the same thing with them. And I'm like, well, why does he always look devastated or worried or something is going on?
Like what is holding back a tear?
Yeah. Yes. And I'm like, that's why the chemistry feels wrong, because you got her like, yeah, we can do, we're a family. You got Johnny like, hey, I'm Johnny. And then you got Ben being Ben, but then you got Reed just sad. Like, and that's not a Reed that we have known in the MCU.
I can't even like make a facial
gesture. It's just everything's like he's about to cry. And you know what? Watching Last of Us, that's what made, I was like, that's the same face he's making as Reed in all these damn trailers. Like, this
I'm a big Pedro fan. I'm a big Pedro fan.
Me too.
I want to believe. I don't. He wouldn't have been my first pick for Reed. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I believe they have a reason for picking him other than his name being marketable and people loving Pedro. I don't think Disney is at a point where they needed to pick somebody like that for Fantastic Four. I think that they saw something in Pedro and his work, and what he could bring to Reed, and I'm excited to see that in that movie.
Yeah, me too, man.
Shout out Brandon Moore. Brandon Moore's the best.
I'm excited to talk about it with you in San Diego in a couple of weeks. I'll be down there at Comic-Con. You'll be down there at Comic-Con. It's going to be a great time. But this was great chatting with you, man. Like, this was a great, recap. So just a pleasure, man. Do you have any shows, anything coming up as far as OVW? The one that just came on right now. We're in the middle of this.
The people who were watching OVW just now saw where I got this from on my forehead. I'm a dummy. My head is thick, but the table was thicker. OVW every Thursday. If you're in the Lexington area, I'll be wrestling Saturday. Despite this and all this right now, I'll be back in the ring on Saturday, and then every Thursday we're at Davis Arena. Come hang out and face Hero. It's on the channel. So just at Brandon Davis BD on platforms. And then also when you see tweets from that hashtag show and some of the story ideas, just know I contribute there. And I'm happy to be trying to keep the team going and growing and having a good time with this group here. It's fun as hell.
Man, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure having you. It's been the best. And I cannot wait to get out to one of your wrestling shows, hopefully.
Can I say so? You know what? I'll just tell you. Well, wait, actually, can I say that? You know about this, right?
Circle.
You know about San Diego?
Oh, yeah. Yes. I'm there. I'm there.
Can I say, can we?
We could say it. Yes, we can say it.
Yeah, I'm gonna. It's the Friday night of San Diego Comic-Con. I'm wrestling at Circle 6, a couple blocks from the San Diego Convention Center, baby.
That's
Come
right,
on out.
baby.
Come
That's
on out,
right.
Circle 6.
Friday night, please make sure you come out. I believe it's at 7. I think show starts at 7 or 8. But just stay tuned to THS's stuff and BD's stuff, and we'll be able to let you know exactly. But yes, I am there. I have my hotel booked. I'm there for that. I'm there for all the other Comic-Con things. Neft will be out there. So guys, I know if you know me, you know, drink Neft. But
let's go.
Yeah, we'll be there. But man, it's been a pleasure. Can't wait till the next one. And yeah, we'll see you Friday night in San Diego. All right, guys, have a good one.